missing and still few clues. Police and the mom of the missing University of Portland student give us an update.
And Mercy Corps is pulling out of northeast Syria. They say the violence is too much for the local nonprofit. We're going to verify the basics for you of this decades-long conflict.
I respect my son, and I think he and everyone else is full of courage.
An emotional send-off. Hundreds of Oregon Army National Guard soldiers are deploying today. Where they're headed and how long they'll be gone.
We haven't found him. And that's the update that I hate to give, but that I have to give. We haven't found him yet.
You can hear the desperation in her voice there, and this is after multiple searches. Family and police say they still don't know exactly what happened to the missing University of Portland student, Owen Klinger. He left his dorm room 8 days ago. We know that. He hasn't been seen or heard from since. Today, Portland police said they're still investigating, but they have no updates for us. They've reviewed the TriMet footage and so far have found nothing. Family and friends continue to coordinate search parties, including one that happened last night where more than 100 people combed 4 North Portland parks. But his mom says they haven't found any signs of him and his phone is still turned off.
If anyone was texting or Snapchatting with Owen the weekend right before, and if anyone knows anything from that time, we just are desperately asking you to come forward and share that information with us.
They are also planning another big search party Wednesday afternoon.
The search is on for a missing mushroom picker in Skamania County. Authorities say 74-year-old Jung Vanata was picking mushrooms on a property near Beacon Highlands Road on Saturday. She was with a friend. At one point, they went back to their car, but Vanata told him she was going back to pick more mushrooms and would return within an hour. Her friends called authorities when she didn't come back. Crews were out searching today, but still haven't found her. The man who ripped off several bottle drop locations in Washington County is headed to prison for 5 years. Brett McQuiston pleaded guilty to the charges. Police say surveillance video captured him in the act. In one instance, he wore a mask and used a crowbar to break into a Beaverton bottle drop location. McQuiston stole at least $30,000 and used the money to buy a Hummer.
He probably went 70 or 85 miles per hour.
A 6-year-old boy describes the terror when someone stole his grandma's car while he was still inside. It happened last night, and fortunately, that little boy is safe.
Yeah, definitely. So tonight, police still now looking for the car thief involved in this. Let's go to KGW's Devin Haskins live for us in Southeast Portland, where this happened. Devin, as we can see, you talked to the little boy there and his grandmother this afternoon. What'd they have to say?
Yeah, as you saw, he's your typical 6-year-old boy. When I spoke with him, he's picking up rocks. He's talkative. You wouldn't really know that he basically was in the carjacking last night. His grandma says, though, he's still a little shaken up by about what happened. Terry Stinson and 6-year-old Jack, her grandson, were in a Chevy Tahoe near 157th and Alder. She says this happened last night around 5 o'clock. She says she stepped out of the car to look at a house that she grew up in and was talking with the current owner. She left 6-year-old Jack in the car to play on her phone. Terry says she was no farther than just a few feet away from the hood of the car. The door was open, keys inside, and Jack in the back seat. That's when a man jumped into the driver's seat and took off, taking Jack with him. Now, they only went a few blocks before the man pulled over and told Jack to get out. Luckily, Jack still had her phone and called his dad. Police were then able to find him and reunite the family no more than about 10 minutes later.
I was losing it. All I could see is my kid in a car, my car, going in the opposite direction than I'm going. And I tried to run down the street and I was waving and screaming and saying, "Stop, you've got my kid in there, Jack's in the car." And of course, nobody could hear it.
I was scared. I was down by myself.
Man, just to listen to Jack describe what had happened, I just can't imagine what he was going through at that time, and then also to get dropped off outside where he was by himself at that time. Now, Jack describes the man as a man with dark hair, dark skin, possibly wearing blue jeans. Police still have not found him. They did find the Tahoe and are still looking for that man. So if you know anything, call Portland Police. Back to you.
Man, I could not imagine as a parent or anybody seeing something like that unfold. Hopefully they find their suspect. Devin, thank you. I want to tell you about a fundraiser tonight in Vancouver for the family whose son died in a bicycle crash. 10-year-old Damien Trick died when he rode his bike into the path of a truck. It happened Tuesday morning in East Vancouver. There was a vigil over the weekend, and tonight there's a fundraiser for the Trick family. It's going to be at the IHOP on Southeast 164th Avenue in Vancouver, and it goes until 10 o'clock tonight. 25% of all the purchase proceeds will go to the Trick family.
Friends and family are grieving the death of a Portland activist tonight. He was killed outside the Democratic Party headquarters on the corner of Northeast 9th and Everett. Some people left flowers, but others spray-painted messages to Sean Keelaher on the side of the building. Keelaher died after a crash and shooting early Saturday morning. He was well known in liberal politics and was a member of Antifa. We asked the executive director of the Democratic Party what they plan to do about the graffiti.
It's early and we're taking this one step at a time. We want to be very respectful of the people who've had a really true loss. Someone they cared deeply about, a young man in the prime of his life, passionate about politics. And so we're taking this one step at a time. And obviously we're going to need to deal with the area, but right now people are grieving and we're trying to be respectful of that.
Last night, the group Defend Portland lit flares at the crash site in his honor.
We've just learned that both efforts to recall Oregon Governor Kate Brown have failed. The state Republican Party didn't even turn in their signatures today, knowing that they didn't have enough. There was another group that was trying to recall the governor also. Michael Cross was behind the Flush Down Kate Brown campaign. He handed in his signatures at the Capitol today, but the Secretary of State's office tells us they just got done counting those signatures, and they do not have the over 280,000 needed to get the issue on the ballot.
Starting tomorrow, Oregon will officially ban flavored vaping products. The 6-month ban covers both nicotine and THC products. Store owners who violate the ban will get a warning first. After that, they'll face fines of up to $500 each day. The OLCC is in charge of enforcement. It says it will start doing random checks tomorrow. Washington's flavored vaping ban's already in effect. We talked with store owners in Southwest Washington last week. Some told us they had to lay off staff, and they're worried about going out of business. Our sister station in Seattle talked with a store owner up there. Kevin Knapp just opened his shop 6 months ago. He doesn't plan to close, but he says flavored cartridges are about 75% of his business.
There's people that are extremely passionate about, 10, 20 years of smoking cigarettes and then have come to vape.
Knapp plans to take a more educational approach, and he's also ordered more tobacco-flavored cartridges.
The crisis in northeast Syria is having an impact on a local nonprofit. We're talking about Mercy Corps. They announced today that they'll be suspending operations and evacuating staff from that area. Mercy Corps has been delivering aid to that region since 2014. It was providing some civilians with fresh water and some other basic necessities. As you may know, Turkey started an incursion in that region last week. Mercy Corps says simply the violence has made it too dangerous to operate. The conflict in Syria is very complicated. It involves several different groups. They've been going at this for decades. Our Verify team is breaking down the basics for us. Here's Jason Puckett.
Let's start with the Kurds. They're an ethnic group of about 25 to 30 million people. When the Ottoman Empire fell apart around World War I, they were left without an official country to call home, which is how they came to be along the Syria-Turkey border in the first place. Without an official territory, Kurds have spread out across 5 existing countries: Turkey, Syria, Iran, Iraq, and parts of Armenia. They've historically been involved in rebellions and have also been the targets of attack as they try to establish a country of their own. And that's why Turkey cares. President Erdogan has spoken out that the Kurds who settled on the border of Turkey are connected to terrorist groups that are rebelling within the country. Basically, he's worried that the Kurds in Syria and the Kurds in Turkey could undermine his country. So where does the U.S. come into all of this? Well, about 5 years ago, we started working with some of the Kurdish groups near the border. As civil wars redefined the boundaries within Syria, the Kurds were one of the groups fighting ISIS in the region, and we joined them. They provided most of the ground troops, we supported with the Air Force, and a small group of soldiers on the ground as advisors. Now, we haven't really been directly involved in the territory disputes or regional concerns. The U.S. purpose on paper was to fight ISIS. But the presence of U.S. troops meant that Turkey was unlikely to try and push the Kurds back because they'd risk taking military action against the U.S. Well, our troops are gone now. President Trump pulled them back earlier this month. And now Turkish troops have moved into the region. According to the United Nations, they've displaced more than 150,000 people as they try to push the Kurds out of the area. Without the U.S. troops, the Kurdish forces have now turned to the Syrian government for aid. So if this is all getting jumbled, the bottom line is that removing our troops has rekindled territory disputes at the Syria-Turkey border. We were working with the Kurds, but now they've turned to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad for aid, and he's sending troops to meet the Turkish forces. That's a very basic overview of what led to the situation we're all in now. We're working on claims from politicians and world leaders about the situation as well, and if you see any you want us to look into, send us an email. With your Verify, I'm Jason Puckett.
And if you want something for us to verify, send us an email, verify@kgw.com. A historic announcement on the banks of the Columbia River. Coming up, what tribal leaders are demanding be done to protect salmon. And it's a done deal at this point. Alpenrose Dairy is no more. Find out what will happen to the property in Southwest Portland. And we're going to take you back inside Woodlawn Elementary. We're spending a year inside the Northeast Portland School, and coming up, a preview of part 2 of our series.
And at 5:30, Lester Holt has an NBC Nightly News exclusive. He talks with Centoya Brown, whose murder sentence was commuted after a celebrity-backed social media campaign. Plus, an update on an 18-year-old runner who finished his first race since suffering a traumatic brain injury in a car crash 2 years ago. He's now homecoming king at his high school. The inspiring story coming up at the bottom of the hour.